law on cooperatives. Okay. Next slide, please. Law on cooperatives, originally RA 6938, the original cooperative code, amended by RA 9520, also known as Philippine Cooperative Code of 2008. This took effect on February 17, 2009. So, sige, next slide, please. Sige, ito yung outline natin for tonight. We will discuss first the theory and legal basis, general concepts, cooperative principles, purposes of cooperatives, objectives and goals, powers and limitations, tax treatment, benefits and privileges, penal provisions, types of cooperatives. Napili ko na i-discuss to kasi ito yung mga topics na pinapasadaan lang, yung parang medyo ini-itsepera lang tapos nagfo-focus doon sa mga theories na like yung mga enumeration, yung pwedeng pagpilian sa multiple choice. Ito, para sa akin, ito yung importante yung mga i-discuss natin. Papasadaan lang natin siya, hindi talaga natin siya thoroughly i-discuss kasi alam ko na nabasa na yung mga nabasa niyo na yung mga topics na to. So start tayo sa Declaration of Policy. Mapapansin nyo every batas sa Pilipinas merong Declaration of Policy. Usually nasa Article 2 siya. Article 1 usually yun yung title ng batas. Ito, Article 1. So, Article 2, Declaration of Policy. Bakit may Declaration of Policy? Kasi ang batas natin laging binabase siya sa public policy ng Pilipinas, public policy ng state. So meron tayong tinatawag na Philippine Constitution, which is the highest law of the land. So as a rule, kung ano yung nasa Constitution, yun yung dapat na, yun yung gagawin, doon dapat nakabase yung lahat ng batas, pati public policy natin. So dito, nakadeclare dito yung public policy ng Pilipinas as to law on cooperatives. So tingnan natin dito, Article 2, Declaration of Policy. Ang keywords, tandaan lang natin yung mga keywords dito. Cooperatives as a practical vehicle for promoting self-reliance and harnessing people power towards the attainment of economic development and social justice. So ang yung keyword dito, as a practical vehicle for promoting self-reliance. So self-reliance, harnessing people power towards attainment of economic development and social justice. So ano ba yung economic development? Siyempre, alam naman natin na lahat dapat mag-contribute para sa economic development. Ano naman yung social justice na tinatawag? Yung social justice naman, dinefine siya dun sa case na Kalalang versus Williams. Medyo mahaba yung definition niya doon, pero in layman's term, ang social justice basically means the promotion of the welfare of the people. Ibig sabihin, anumang batas na para sa ikabubuti ng lahat. So, ganun. Tapos, meron ding social justice is a form of equal justice, equal distribution of wealth, health, well-being, privileges, and opportunity. So, okay, so next slide, please. Toward this end, the government in all its branches, subdivisions, instrumentalities, and agencies shall ensure the provision of technical guidance, financial assistance, and other services. Sa next paragraph na to, as a public policy, kailangan tulungan ng government ang cooperatives to ensure meron silang guidance, assistance, and other services. Next slide, please. Further, the state recognizes the principle of subsidiarity. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng principle of subsidiarity? Under which the cooperative sector will initiate and regulate within its own ranks the promotion and organization, training and research and audit. So ano ba ibig sabihin ng principle of subsidiarity? Basically, ang ibig sabihin lang naman ng principle of subsidiarity, ini-empower niya yung cooperative, hindi lang cooperative sector to respond to challenges, problems, and issues and resolve their issues. Ibig sabihin, yung cooperative dapat i-resolve mismo yung issues nila sa loob, tulad ng meron silang arbitration mechanism, meron silang appeal sa General Assembly kapag may problema, kapag may mga removal, pag may mga withdrawal of or termination of membership, merong mechanism para ma-resolve yung mga issues na yon. So nakalagay dito sa Article 2, the state recognizes the principle of subsidiarity under which the cooperative sector will initiate and regulate within its own ranks the promotion and organization, training and research, audit and support services. Okay, so baka kasi tanungin sa board exam, what is the principle of subsidiarity under the law on cooperatives? At least alam nyo yung principle na to. At least masasagutan nyo kapag basahin nyo itong Article 2 ng RA 9528. 9520, I mean. Next slide, please. General concepts. A cooperative is an autonomous and duly registered association. Okay, anong kaibahan nito sa partnership and corporation? Bakit hindi sinama siya sa business organization, ang cooperative? So ano yung nasa business organization? Partnership, corporation, minsan joint venture, pero hindi kasama yung cooperative. Well, for the sole reason na hindi sila for business. So, di ba sinabi natin kanina, for economic development and social justice. So, ang cooperative hindi siya for business, mainly para sa ano siya, para sa for the members, for the sector na kung saan siya nabibilang, for economic development, for cultural needs and aspirations. So makikita natin dito yung sa general concept, yung kaibahan ng cooperative sa ibang business organizations. So ulit, a cooperative is an autonomous and duly registered. So registered dapat siya, association of persons with common bond of interest. Ito din yung, although sa business organization, siyempre may bond din sila, which is yung for profit. Ito may common bond of interest. Mamaya malalaman natin kung ano yung common bond of interest. Who have voluntarily joined together to achieve their social, economic, and cultural needs and aspirations. Paano? By making equitable contributions to the capital required. Okay, so may equitable contributions. So co-owner sila nung capital. By patronizing their products, and services and accepting a fair share of the risks and benefits of the undertaking in accordance with universally accepted cooperative principles. So meron din tayo dito, universally accepted cooperative principles. So kanina meron tayong principle of subsidiarity, meron naman dito universally accepted cooperative principles. So ayun lang, watch out lang dito sa mga terms na to kasi possible na tanungin sila sa board exam. Next slide please. Cooperative principles. So pwede na nating pasadahan to. Self-explanatory naman sila. Voluntary and open membership. So voluntary and open to all persons able to use their services and willing to accept the responsibilities of membership. Democratic member control. Controlled by members who actively participate. Okay. Member economic participation. Members contribute equitably to and democratically control the capital of their cooperatives. Ibig sabihin ng member economic participation, meron silang participation doon sa kaperahan, kaperahan ng cooperatives, doon sa capital, kung paano gagastusin siya. Ayun, so actually may participation pa rin kahit alam ba, member ka, wala kang direct participation, pero may participation ka kapag merong General Assembly or through the Board of Directors. So yun, lagi may economic participation. Next slide, please. Autonomy and independence. Okay, autonomous self-help organizations. Education, training, and information. Ito yung isa sa peculiar na characteristic din ng cooperative kasi yung ibang business organization walang education, training, and information. Dito required talaga na may education, training, and information. Hindi lang yung mga board of directors, pati na rin yung mga members and officers. Number 6, cooperation among cooperatives. 7, concern for community. Next slide, please. purposes. Ito medyo mahaba tong purposes kasi dinetalye na sa batas yung purposes. So pwede na lang natin tong pasadahan. Okay, to encourage thrift and savings, to generate funds and extend credit, to encourage among members systematic production and marketing, to provide goods and services, to develop expertise and skills among its members. Next slide, please. To acquire lands and provide housing benefits, to insure against losses. Number 8, to promote and advance the economic, social, and educational status of the members. 9, next slide, please. So, ibibigay naman sa inyo itong presentation ko. So, basahin nyo na lang po. Doon na tayo sa next topic. Objectives and goals. Kasi yung objective and goals, objective, ito din yung purpose, sinamarize lang. Ito din yung purpose ng cooperatives na mas kinempress lang. So basically, the primary objective of cooperative is to help improve the quality of life of its members. So ayun, so makikita mo dito yung pinakakaibahan niya sa ibang business organization. Kasi hindi talaga siya actually for business. Ang purpose niya talaga is to help improve the quality of life of its members. Okay, so towards this end, the cooperative shall aim to provide goods and services to its members, to enable them to attain increased income, savings, investments, productivity, and purchasing power, and promote among themselves equitable distribution, etc. Letter B, provide optimum social and economic benefits to its members, teach them efficient ways of doing things in a cooperative manner. Next slide, please. Propagate cooperative practices and new ideas, allow the lower income and less privileged groups to increase their ownership in the wealth of the nation. F, cooperate with the government and other cooperatives. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so bakit natin diniscuss muna natin yung purposes, objectives, general concepts, and legal basis? Para lang may ma-refresh kayo kung ano ba talaga yung law on cooperatives. So, dito naman tayo sa powers and limitations. What are the powers and limitations? First, exclusive use of its registered name to sue and be sued. So, ito yung meron na siyang legal or juridical personality. So, kapag may pangalan ka na nare-recognize ng batas, pwede mo nang gamitin yun. Pwede mong i-prevent yung ibang tao or entity to use that same name. Pwede ka ring mag-file ng case or enforce your right against other persons or entities. So meron din siyang power of succession tulad ng ibang business organizations to amend its articles of incorporation, actually in bylaws din to, and adopt bylaws, tapos deal with properties, enter into division, merger, or consolidation, to form subsidiary cooperatives, and join federations or unions. Next slide, please. To avail loans, be entitled to credit and to accept, receive grants, donations, and assistance. So pag may juridical personality ka na, pwede ka na mag-apply ng loan, mag-apply ng credit sa bangko, mag-donate, mag-receive ng donation, mag-request ng assistance, mag-provide ng assistance. To avail of preferential rights granted to cooperatives under RA 7160. So meron siyang tax treatment later on na i-discuss natin. Ito yung special exemption na granted ng law on cooperatives. I mean the Philippine Cooperative Code. Next slide, please. To organize and operate schools. Ito in accordance with RA 9155. Number 11, to exercise such other powers. Okay. Catch all provision. Next slide, please. Liability. A cooperative duly registered under this code shall have limited liability. So same with corporation as a role, may limited liability sila. So lagi namang may exception to. So I believe ito may exception din tulad ng corporation. Mamaya makikita natin. Pero yung liability, mag-extend na siya doon sa personal liability ng mga officers, directors, or employees na involved. So kaya nilagay siya dito limited liability. So cooperative, tapos dapat duly registered siya kasi kapag hindi siya registered, hindi siya ma-recognize ng batas. Sige, next slide please. Tax treatment. So pasadaan lang din natin to kasi didiscuss din to sa tax subject nyo. So as a rule, national tax, ano yung national tax? Under the NIRC, ano ba yun? Income tax, VAT, DST, estate tax. So yun mga yun, naka-enumerate yun sa NIRC. As a rule, not subject to any taxes. If first, duly registered cooperative and do not transact any business with non-members or the general public. So kapag para yung present yung dalawang elements na to, hindi siya subject sa tax, national tax. Next slide please. If transacting business with both member and non-members, if national tax as a rule, transaction of cooperative with members shall not be subjected to tax. So ito yung national tax ulit. Transaction of members with the cooperative shall not be subject to any taxes and fees, including but not limited to final taxes on members' deposits and documentary tax. Okay, so if transaction with members and cooperative not subject to tax. Next slide, please. Balik ng konti. Tama ba? Okay. So transaction with non-members. So andito na yung tax treatment kapag with non-members. If the cooperative has an accumulated reserve and undivided net savings of not more than 10 million pesos, ibig sabihin hanggang 10 million pesos, exempt from all national, city, provincial, municipal, or barangay taxes of whatever nature, whatever name and nature. So national or local tax exempt din. Next slide, please. Exempt din sa customs duties, advance sales, or compensating taxes on importation of machineries, equipment, and spare parts. May condition lang dito na kailangan hindi siya i-transfer o ibenta kahit sa beneficial owner within 5 years. Otherwise, magiging solidarily liable yung transfer or assignee for double the amount of the tax. So yun yung penalty niya. So next slide please. Cooperatives with pag more than 10M naman yung accumulated reserves and undivided net savings, shall pay the following taxes at full rate. So income tax as to interest on capitals. Pero hindi yung distribution doon, kung merong distribution sa members, hindi yun subject sa tax. Yung interest on capitals lang. Provided further that cooperatives regardless of classification are exempt from, okay. Sige, next slide please. But on transactions with non-members, so full rate din. However, cooperatives duly registered with the authority are exempt from payment of VAT as to that cooperatives duly are exempt from the payment of VAT. Next slide please. Provided that the exempt transaction under, ito yung exemption under section 109L. So, di ba sinabi doon, VAT applicable for non-members. Pero, kung pasok naman dito sa exemption under section 109L, magiging VAT exempt pa rin siya. Next slide, please. Okay, so okay na to. Basahin na lang tong condition na to. Basically, yun nga, pag with non-members subject sa VAT, pero may condition din kung pasok doon sa exemption under NIRC, tapos provide for that any processed product or its derivative arising from the raw materials sold in their name. Okay, ito yung mga additional conditions. Finally, that at least 25% of the net income of the cooperative is returned to the members in the form of interest. Okay, so medyo mahirap yung kanyang condition. Pero ito yung mga condition. Okay, so next slide please. Cooperative with accumulated reserves and undivided net savings of more than 10M. Okay, full rate ulit, all other taxes unless otherwise provided herein. So kapag hindi pasok doon sa mga diniscuss natin kanina, as a rule taxable yun. Tapos yung donations, pwedeng maging tax deductible. Siyempre mag-apply dito yung condition sa tax code as to the donation. Next slide please. Also exempt from local taxes and taxes on transactions with banks and companies, provided all sales or services rendered for non-members shall be subject to the applicable percentage taxes sales made by producers, marketing, or service cooperatives. So, hindi exempt from local taxes and taxes on transactions with banks and insurance companies, pero yung mga sales or services for non-members subject sa percentage tax kapag producers, para lang sa mga cooperatives na to, producers, marketing, or service cooperatives. Provided further that nothing in this article shall preclude the examination. Okay, so ito naman yung authority ng BIR tsaka ng CDA to audit the books of accounts. So sa cooperative, hindi lang BIR ang may authority na mag-examine ng books of accounts, pati rin ang mga pati rin ang Cooperative Development Authority. So kapag tinanong sa board exam, may authority ba ang CDA na mag-examine ng books of accounts and accounting records of cooperative? Yes. The answer is correct. Next slide, please. Ito yung mga benefits. So bakit ini-encourage ng batas natin na mag-put up ng cooperative? Kasi marami siyang benepisyo. So meron siyang tax treatment, tapos meron pa nitong mga free of charge, like sa notary public, to any person or group of persons requiring administration of oath. So ito yung tinatawag na jurat. For the acknowledgement of articles of incorporation and instruments of loan not exceeding 500,000 pesos. Okay, next slide please. So sa notary public, meron din sa registry of deeds, free of charge, any instrument relative to a loan under this code which does not exceed 250,000 pesos. So halimbawa, merong loan na hanggang 250,000 pesos. So kung ipapa-annotate mo siya doon sa registry, papa-record mo sa registry of deeds, ano siya, wala siyang bayad. Kung sa deed of title naman, kung papa-annotate mo, wala ring bayad. So, ayun. Sige, next slide please. Court and docket fee. Docket fee naman yung tinatawag na filing fee kapag magpa-file ka ng case. Halimbawa, si cooperative gusto mag-file ng case laban sa isang supplier na hindi due to breach of contract or sa non-member na na pinautangan. So may collection case, magpa-file ng case. So magbabayad ng court and sheriff's fee. So under this provision, free of charge siya. Except if the action is brought by the authority itself. Ibig sabihin yung CDA mismo yung nag-file ng case against the cooperative. Next slide please. Appeal ban. So appeal ban for bringing an appeal against the decision of an inferior court. Halimbawa kapag may kapag may decision na sa lower court, sa MTC or sa RTC, mag-a-appeal na and kailangan ng ban, nakalagay din dito na exempt na siya doon. Provided that a certification of the authority showing that the net assets of the cooperative are in excess of the amount of the bond required by the court. Ibig sabihin, mas malaki yung net assets dun sa nire-require na bond ng court. Okay. So yun ang condition niya. Next slide please. Security. Any security issued by cooperative shall be exempt from the provisions of the Securities Act. Okay. Provided sa security shall not be speculative. Okay. Hindi talaga allowed ang speculative securities. Okay, so next slide please. Privileges. Yung number 1, next slide please. Number 1, meron pa ba nito? Containers, documents are in the safes of municipal or city treasurers and other government offices. Wala pa ako nakikita ng ganito. Pero ito, isa ito sa privileges ng cooperative na pwede daw mag-deposit ng cash boxes or containers, documents, or any valuable papers in the safes of the municipal or city treasurers and other government offices free of charge. Number 2, cooperatives organized among government employees shall enjoy free use of any available space in their agency, whether owned or controlled by the government. Actually, ito free use din to sa mga ang tawag dito kapag may mga people's organization, may mga organization sa loob ng agency, government agency. So, inaalaw naman talaga to. Number 3, next slide please. Okay, cooperatives rendering special types of services such as cold storage, ice plant, electricity, transportation, and similar services shall secure a franchise. Therefore, and such cooperatives shall open. Okay, so ano lang sila? Priority lang sila sa application ng franchise kapag cooperative ka. Priority ka laban doon sa mga ibang organization na for profit. Okay, number 4, preferential right to supply government institutions and agencies, rice, corn, and other grains, fish, and other marine products. So itong agricultural and marine products, may preferential right ang cooperative to supply these products. Number 5, next slide please. Preferential treatment in the allocation of fertilizers, including seeds and other agricultural inputs and implements. Number 6, preferential and equitable treatment in the allocation or control of bottom rates of commercial shipping vessels. Next slide, please. Okay, the keyword here is preferential rights in the management of public markets and or lease of public market facilities, tolls, or spaces. Kaya kung mapapansin nyo, kadalasan ng mga toda-toda, yung mga organisasyon ng mga jeepney drivers or ng mga tricycle drivers, yung iba dyan mga cooperative kasi may preferential treatment sila like to operate a certain terminal o kaya kung ano naman sila, kung public market, pwedeng yung isang cooperative nagmamanage nun, naglilinis sila or kung ano pang spaces. So yun yung isa sa privileges niya. Number 8, cooperatives. Next slide please. Engage in credit services. And nung nasa commission on audit ako, maraming ganito sa COA. Credit cooperatives yung nagpapautang dun sa mga members. I think halos lahat ng government agencies may ganitong cooperative yung credit and finance cooperatives ata yun. Yung parang meron silang monthly, pag naging member ka, may monthly contribution, tapos kapag naging member ka for a certain period, pwede ka na mag-loan ng certain amount, tapos may dividends every year or kung may declaration sila. So yun, usong-uso itong credit cooperatives na to sa government agencies. Next slide please. Ayun, public transport yung sinabi ko kanina. Public transport service cooperative may be entitled to financing support for the acquisition and or maintenance of land and sea transport equipment, facilities, and parts. So ayun, may specific program ang government para ma-assist ang mga public transport service cooperatives. Next slide please.